Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Business Roundtable podcast. We have another new guest on the podcast this week. My good friend, Josh from Xtract Media. I've known Josh, goodness, for quite a few years now. We first met through an organization called Wake Up Warrior, where I'm certified as a trainer there. Uh, Josh has gone through so much of the materials. We've even collaborated in some of the trainings and things in the past. And he is an amazing mentor. He's really mentored me in my own coaching business through Steward Your Business. And he's worked with so many other coaches, consultants, business owners. And I just am excited to have him come speak and share his knowledge with you, all of you listening on the podcast today. And so, Josh, welcome to the Business Roundtable podcast. Glad to have you here.
David, what's going on? Thank you so much for having me. If you're
Yes.
listening to this, first and foremost, I apologize in advance if I cough or anything like that. I assume that you're probably a business owner or wanting to get into business of some sort. And one thing you'll learn really quick is that when you have stuff on the calendar, it doesn't matter as an owner that you're sick. You still show up and you do the work and you do it no matter what. You don't get days off. So I'm here and I'm actually really excited to be here, David. I'm honored that you would invite me
Yeah.
on your show.
Yeah. It's great to have you here, Josh. I mean, I think one of the things we went through years ago, it was Warrior, was kind of this Warrior wealth, or how do we expand a business? What are the frameworks of understanding, right? And at the time, I wasn't a business owner. I was working as I would call an entrepreneur in the business, but I still had to understand elements of growth and the different stages of a business. I took a course a few years ago through UCLA, Management Development for Entrepreneurs, and so you have this framework of understanding, Josh. I think it's super valuable for the audience to listen to and get guidance on about how do you plan for the different stages of growth in a business. And you've done this for so many people, Josh. I think it's really going to be really valuable for those to listen. And I hope as folks are listening to this podcast, um, we'll give you an opportunity, Josh, for you to share some more information about how they reach you, because Josh has just been a great resource for me. I'm a part of one of his mastermind groups. There's ways that you can collaborate with him. And just again, Josh, I'm just glad to have you here and just kind of guide folks into this framework that you've shared with me, and is super valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you keep saying the word frameworks because that's really what we're going to talk about today.
Mhm.
I've noticed over the years, so just to give you guys a little bit of background, I started my journey into entrepreneurship after over a decade in sales, just over about 10 years ago. So it's been a long time. I
Mhm.
initially went into business with the great idea to start a marketing agency and do all sorts of different things. And that business and all of the different things have evolved over time. I think there's a statistic something like 95% of businesses don't end up being what
Mm.
business the person started, and they evolve and they change and they pivot and do different things as you go on. And so that certainly happened to me. Now I like to call myself kind of a business growth strategist. And that's really what I do. I help businesses grow, I help them strategize, and I help them really see from an overarching view a framework for growth. And that's what we're going to
Mhm.
talk about today. So I'm really excited. One of the things in the plethora of books and content and all the different things, I see all your books behind you,
Yep.
is that in 2017, this is actually an interesting story. I read a book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And inside of that book, he talks or he said one line that just always stuck with me, which was the idea that for every millionaire that he had ever met, they all had one habit in common. And that habit that they had in common was that they read about 52 books a year. They finished a book a week.
Mm.
I was driving in my car to my co-working space at the time, and I just remember hearing that and being like, "Oh man, that's all that it takes. Like the only habit that I need to have is reading and doing that." And so I set myself a goal to read a book a week every single week from that point forward. Granted, I counted audibles, so that's kind of cheating because you can do it while you're in the car, but it still counts in my opinion. But fast forward about 7 or 8 years later, and no matter what business book you read or what coaching program or traction or EOS or whatever it is about business growth, you start to notice these overarching frameworks, these overarching core concepts, regardless of what leadership program you subscribe to or what coaching platform you're a part of or what Wake Up Warrior this or EOS that. It doesn't really matter. At the
Mhm.
core of all of these things is generally a few foundational frameworks. And I just started noticing patterns between
Mhm.
all of these different things. So today I wanted to show you one of these patterns. It's actually a framework inside of a framework. So, when I'm talking about a framework, just to go really high level,
Yeah.
what I mean is an alliteration or like a word picture that's going to help you understand a concept to give you focus and clarity so you know exactly what direction to go in based on where you're at or based on where you are. And so you have all sorts of different frameworks. It can be my 5S system. It can be my 4 steps to, the 5 steps to a conversation. It doesn't really matter. You'll notice across the board as you're listening to and seeing these different programs is that usually they're going to have some sort of alliteration that's going to allow you to remember or recall whatever the thing is. That's how our brains work. And
Mhm.
so inside of these frameworks, I have one that have called the journey framework.
Mhm.
And so today what we're going to talk about is how I lay out the journey framework.
Yep.
And I'll lay out what a journey framework actually is, and you're going to see this as a pattern in so many different places. And then the one that I use for business growth and development that called the geometric progression formula. And so before I dive in, that's kind of the framework or the overarching topic of what I
Yep.
wanted to talk about here today, David.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's
I
anything else you want to
that
add.
No, I mean, I just wanna iterate, there's a lean in as as you guys are listening to this podcast, because Josh has got gold here, and I think it's really important that you recognize there is a framework, and I agree with you, Josh. I found that reading these different things, there's different labels or ways it's shown, but the reality is if you're not paying attention to this, you're going to have challenges. And actually, I'm gonna be recording another podcast this week on another gentleman about how make a profitable business, and he focuses on some of the numbers elements. And there's different problems that you're going to face. So I want to look at these numbers and these milestones that Josh is going to share with you because it's resonated with me and it's something that I keep in the forefront of my mind and looking like where am I going at? I don't know, Josh. To me, sometimes it's like when you have a car there's like mileages, right? At 30,000 miles, at 60,000 miles, there's certain things you have to do. And they're different. Some of them are the same, but some of them are different. And if you're not aware of that and you blow past that and you're like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that, you're going to have a broken down car,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you're not following the journey and not following the map and the steps that you take, you're not going to end up at the destination that you want to get to, right?
Hmm.
And I think it would make sense in my journey in entrepreneurship and in my career. There are just for me, and I think I'm the shining star example of a lot of these things. And so I think most of the people that are crazy enough to go into entrepreneurship or crazy enough to start their own businesses tend to be slightly ADD, tend
Yep.
to be a little bit outside of the box, don't really fit into somebody else's mold or whatever it is. Because if you did, you'd go get a job somewhere and you wouldn't be crazy enough to trade a 60-hour a week business for a 40-hour a week job where you have benefits and all that nice stuff. And
Hmm.
so in that ADD provides a lot of, and I don't actually think that it's a disorder. I think it's a superpower and it's actually what creates us to be who we
Hmm.
are. But a few of the core problems that I see for most people as they're either first starting out or trying to grow a business, the main and number one problem that I believe the geometric progression formula is going to help solve is the idea of shiny object syndrome, or I've also heard it called the lady in the red dress. And no matter what it is, when we're scrolling Facebook, we're scrolling Instagram, we're talking to our team, we go to a mastermind event, we go to a training, and everything sounds like a good idea.
Hmm.
Everything should be a yes. Of course, this funnel, this one funnel away thing is exactly what I need to do right now because that guy's sales letter was really, really convincing. And now I'm going to give him $2,000 to help me implement my one funnel away challenge and my one funnel away thing, even though I still haven't performed some of the foundational things to create my offer.
Yep.
Or I see this new ads feature, or this new AI bot that's going to help generate or convert more of my clients into sales. And it sounds really great. And again, it has a great sales letter. And I talk to the sales representative and he sounds really good. And I sign up for this thing thinking that it's going to be the thing that's all of a sudden going to change my business. I heard it once said, I think it was Tim Ferriss, who talks about how you need to mind your no's in business.
Mm.
And the no's are significantly more important than the yeses because everything that you say yes to is a no to everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. That's a big one.
And so I'm trying to drop these little nuggets because they're nice, but also it comes from the reading that I was talking about. But
Mhm.
everything and every strategy and every tactic that you follow, like I look at business in 3 levels. You have tactics at the very lowest level, and a lot of people love to live in tactics. They're
Mhm.
tacticians, it's SEO, it's PPC, and I'm gonna speak a lot in marketing terms because 'cause I'm a marketer, or at least that's how I started. So I'm
Yep.
gonna speak a lot in marketing terms, but it's SEO or PPC or Facebook ads or a funnel or direct prospecting or this thing or that thing, and it doesn't matter, and the crazy part is they all work, but they're all tactics.
Yep.
The next level up is kind of director roles, right? Like, so a marketing director. So that's your marketing, that's your sales, that's your fulfillment, it's your operations, it's that level. And then the next
Mhm.
level up is really your strategy. And that's where how I work with people comes into play because your strategy is going to dictate the game plan and the plays that you play. And the
Yep.
plays are going to dictate and the score is going to dictate what you do next. And so another based on what I'm talking about, here's one of the biggest things about shiny object syndrome. Most of the people that are getting it wrong or running into obstacles in business are either trying to do the right thing at the wrong time or the wrong thing at the right time. And what I mean by that is right thing at the wrong time or wrong thing at the right time is it's just a timing issue.
Mhm.
Meaning if you punch in an address in your GPS and you're trying to get from point A to point B and you turn right 200 miles early, you're not going to end up making it to the place that you need to make it to,
Yeah.
because you're
Mhm.
too early. But one of the things that I also see is comparison syndrome, right? And I'm just making up fancy names for this stuff. It's not called comparison syndrome, but let's say I am running an architecture firm, for example, because I know you have a lot of architecture
Yep.
firms or engineering firms,
Yep.
and I'm
Engineering.
doing $100,000 a month. I'm doing about $1 million a year. And I go look at the giant architecture or the giant engineering firm that has 50 locations and they're doing about $20 million, whatever, 20 to $50 million, and blah, 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 blah. The worst thing that I could do is try and copy them.
Yeah.
Because if I try and copy them, I'm doing a tactic that I see on the front end and negating and ignoring the work that it took to get there.
Mhm.
I won't have the business back end. I won't have the fulfillment systems. I won't have the operations. My teams won't have clear roles and responsibilities. There's going to be so much that will get in your way. So when you
Mhm.
try and go and say, well, this person hired a sales team of 10 people and they did appointment setters and they're doing prospecting on Facebook. Well, the reality is they have an offer and the fulfillment setup is working really well for that offer. The offer is dialed in. All of those different pieces are working and humming. And then they were able to pour gasoline on a fire that was already working.
Yep.
Doesn't
Yep.
mean that prospecting and hiring a sales team and outsourcing all that stuff doesn't work.
Mhm.
But what it does mean is that you're doing the wrong thing at the right
Yep.
time, or you're doing the right thing, but at the wrong time. Because there are reps or there's a strategic progression that you still need to go through in order to grow into the person capable of implementing that strategy or that tactic.
Mm. This is so important, Josh, because I feel like speaking from myself as a solopreneur and doing that is I 100% hear your shiny object syndrome and getting sucked into all these things. And I talk with other small business owners and solopreneurs, and unfortunately, like you're saying, Josh, they fall into that trap. Somebody's got an offer, they spent 2,000 here, 3,000 there. Now they don't have the money. They've invested this money and the time, and they haven't had a good filter. And what I hear you saying is that, like, use this filter that you're providing here as a way of saying, maybe yes, but that's further down the line, not for me right now. And so being cognizant, and that's what I love about having you on the Business Roundtable podcast and having others, is as people are listening to this, look, I'm not paying Josh to come on here. He's coming on here his own time because he knows the value he's going to bring. And that's why look for people that are doing that are coming on, like Josh is here, and why we created the Business Roundtable podcast is just we're looking after your best interests. We don't want to just sell you something. We want to actually help you grow your business, help you support you. And so that's why I so appreciate you, Josh, coming on, because I've seen the value, I've seen what you do, and you say, hey, look, if this you're educating folks and you're providing the value first, and you're saying, hey, look, taste and see. And so I just again want to appreciate that, because I feel like in today's world more than ever, people are just trying to sell something. There's not everybody, but there's a lot of people that are just trying to sell you the latest thing. And they don't really care if it works or not for you. It's like kind of worked for somebody here, and you're like, "Ah, that didn't work," and they're really frustrated, and then they're and they're not successful in their business, they're very gun shy and they don't spend the time and effort that they would be most beneficial, like you're talking about.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like the idea that, even a small percentage of success is going to speak volumes and volumes higher than the amount of people that don't find the success with your thing. And so this is the reason that especially in the coaching world, right? Like you can take the same information and you can sell it in a book and it's worth $10.
Mhm.
And then you sell it in a course and it's worth $100. But we already know the metrics about 95% of people that buy a course don't actually finish the course and never get the result that was promised. But the 5% are the testimonials that you see all over their webpage, which was really, really nice. Of course, you're
Mhm.
missing the little asterisk that says we don't guarantee results and blah, 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 blah. And you have to actually do the work and all those things. But a course might be $100 to $500. Right,
Mhm.
and then the next level up is, let's say, a one-on-one relationship or a done with you, maybe a community or a mastermind, which is actually what I
Mhm.
believe in the most.
Mhm.
And then the next level up might be one-on-one done with you services, and then the next level up is done for you, where you're doing a lot of stuff for the people, and that's generally the value ladder that we see regardless of what type of business it is that you're running. The thing
Mhm.
that I'm saying is that a lot of times, and just to make this tactical, your new entrepreneur will see the guy that's running the course and
Yep.
selling it for $200 and not recognizing that that's a loss leader. He makes no money on that course.
Mhm.
The only
Right.
reason for the course is to cue people up to be ready for his mastermind or be ready for his one-on-one services or book him for a speaking engagement for his actual profit maximizers where he actually makes the money. And so what
Mhm.
you actually have to do, and this is kind of cool. I've never thought about it this way, but I'm going to go
Mm.
over the geometric progression. But really, what you do is you take that value ladder and you turn it upside down.
Mhm.
Because what I mean is, your first step is to create the highest level offer where you're doing the most that you could possibly do for your clients and saying, hey,
Yep.
I'm going to come in and I'm going to do everything for you. I don't know exactly what that is yet because I'm new and I don't know what I don't know. But my job, David, as I start working with you, is to help you. And so what we're going to do is we're going to meet regularly and I'm going to figure out
Mhm.
what crap you need. And we're going to look at your sales. We're going to look at your marketing. We're going to look at your operations. And we're going to continue to focus and figure out what the next big thing is that you need to accomplish in order to achieve the growth and the results that you want in your business.
Yep.
And so that actually directly applies because that's what I did. And that's how I've
Yep.
grown my agency to where it is because I started working with people one on one. And you get paid the highest dollar working with people one on one after you've had some reps in. Of course, if you follow Alex Hormozy's advice or anything like that, start working with people for free or a low cost until you at least are good enough to charge them, and then
Yep.
increase your prices over time. And then eventually, when you have enough people or you have enough clients, you can start to expand that. And then
Mhm.
eventually, when you expand that, then you've earned the right to start a group coaching program or a mastermind. I've seen so many people out there who like, I want to start a mastermind and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, how many people have you coached before? Like, well, 5. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so would you be 100% confident and comfortable getting on a Zoom call, shooting from the hip and figuring out how to provide training and resources and guidance for a group of 20 people right now?
Mhm.
Yes or no? No? Okay. That's totally fine. So the result or what you really need to do in that scenario is just go and get some reps in. There's no shortcuts in this game.
Yep.
Like you might see somebody that's an overnight success, but I'm certain that they would have some sort of mentor or some sort of um yeah, like usually a mentor or somebody that they know that has
Yeah.
done something like that and they're able to shortcut the process. Like there are shortcuts and the only shortcut that I found is money. And it's really unfortunate because most people who are starting out in business don't have a whole lot. What I
Mhm.
mean is if you're gonna go and pay a consultant 100 grand, then you're probably gonna get results a little bit faster, but most people don't wanna go and pay a consultant 100 grand.
Right.
Now,
Right.
if I'm so and so's son at the ClickFunnels funnel hacking thing and, I pay Russell Brunson 100 grand to build a funnel for me, then I can probably sell a course for whatever amount of price and an entire production team and do all the things without actually having to do anything because I paid a bunch of people who already knew what they were doing.
Mhm.
Now,
Right.
I just said a lot of different things.
I wanna go back to what you said of the value ladder, kind of observation, Josh. So you said
Yep.
that think of what ultimately what you're trying to do, the greatest one, and oftentimes I've spent 20 plus years in environmental consulting, Josh. I'll do a proposal, and if I give them everything in the kitchen sink, usually that's too much, and like I don't want all that, or they get overloaded. So then how do you know how to break that down? Like you're saying, of like, okay, well then let's get you this chunk in and get you success at this level, and then we can go on to the next one. And so what I hear you thinking about, whether you're a business owner or a director or a department head, or you've got to think about how you're going to grow the business, think about that bigger vision. Like you said, what is that you all want to include, and then we can break it down into just these steps of how would we deliver that, how would we present that. Like you said, same thing. If you have a group of five, if I'm managing 5 people right now, and you said you want to manage a department of, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, your skills are going to be different there at those levels. How would you do it? What would the organizational look like? What would the different roles, what would the different skills you would have to have there? um if, and if you're not well versed in that, yes, you can, like you said, Josh, I heard you say you can spend the money. I see people try to do this sometimes with franchises or something like that, maybe a quick short, like, but they've never run, let's just say, a restaurant. They never run that business. They buy it like, hey, it says it's profitable, it's this, I'm gonna buy it, and then it doesn't work, and they're out of business in a year or two. They didn't know how to run it. There's a shortcut, maybe, but we're also talking about sustainability too, and growth, in being it so that it's not kind of hollowed from the inside out. It's like, is this solid, or is this kind of a house of cards, if you will?
I mean, you can always tell. Like, and that's the crazy part. Like, I've been a consultant for so long, and one of the crazy things is, um, nobody has it figured out, right?
Mhm,
For the most part, like we're all swimming in deep water, and there's always the next new thing that's hard, and the next
mhm,
new thing, and the next new evolution of who we're becoming in order to be able to achieve the next level of what we're doing, and that's okay because that's the way that it is. Even if
mhm,
you see a company that looks all pretty from the outside, you go on the inside and look at the inner workings and the mechanics of it, and there are all sorts of problems. But I love
mhm,
the fact that what you said in, if I was in environmental consulting and I had everything but the kitchen sink and I gave them all that and it's overwhelming and they're like, "Oh crap, not only is this too expensive, but it's too much. How could we ever do that?" This is where it brings it all back to the journey framework.
mhm,
And so what we have to do, and like I'm talking with my hands here,
mhm.
but what we have to do is we need to, and what I'll give you is, because this applies both to you as a business owner
Yep.
and how you apply it to your clients. That's why it's called a meta framework. It's a framework above the framework.
Mhm,
So when you're working with a client, what you do is you extrapolate a period of time, right? Let's say you have everything but the kitchen sink. I would probably tell you, David, we could launch a podcast for you and we could be launching Facebook ads and Google ads and all of these things.
mhm,
But all of that stuff based on the conversation that we've had is really expensive, and we could
mhm.
do that for you. I know that that's not in your skill set. We could do
Right.
that for you, but that's gonna cost X, Y, and Z, and quite frankly, what I know I need to do is create the revenue for you so that you can pay for that in the future.
Mhm. Yep.
So, that's not the right thing at the right time. It's the
Mhm,
right thing, and it'll absolutely work when you have enough cash to put in $10,000 a month in your Facebook ad account. I think half
mhm.
the reason Facebook ads don't work most of the time is because people, are really scared about it, and they only wanna put in $500 a month. I'm like, "You gotta spend 10 grand for the algorithm to even work." Like, that's how
Mhm.
Mark Zuckerberg's so rich, it works. But it only works at a certain level and with a certain
Yeah.
level of management. If you go and find the $500 a month Facebook ads agency, don't be surprised when you don't get the result that they said that you'd get. It just doesn't work
Mhm,
that way. Most of the really, really good agencies that I'm seeing now just take a percentage of profits because they know their stuff works so well.
mhm. Yep.
And they'll only take on very specific clients that have already done a lot of the foundational work.
Mhm,
And so let me bring this all home. So what I'm saying is you have to put it together a journey for your clients and you have to put together the journey for yourself. So
mhm,
how that looks tactically. Wake Up Warrior was great at this. They had this thing called the impossible game where you'd set your targets out about a year to a year and a half or 2 years. EOS has it too. They're called rocks, whatever it is. Again, there's overarching frameworks in every program and you'll see it. It's called the journey. And so you lay out this target of where you really, really want to be. in a
Mhm.
certain time frame, and you get to decide what that time frame is. Some people say a year, some people say 3 years, some people say the next quarter. It doesn't really matter. As long as it feels impossible or kind of makes your you tingle a little bit, it's like, "Oh my god, that's crazy." But, like I remember in 2016 or 2017, I was sitting at an event, and that event was something for Infusionsoft. It was like their con or whatever. And I went to a high level like workshop thing. And what they asked me to do is they were like, Josh, what I want you to do is I want you to take out this piece of paper. They gave me a bunch of pieces of paper and Sharpies and cool colors and stuff like that. So I was drawing and doing cool things. And they're like, I want you to write on this piece of paper exactly how much money you want to be making per month. Now, me being the naive new business owner that I was, of course, I wrote the obligatory $83,333. Why is that, David?
Yeah, does that get you, to 1,000,000?
Exactly $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Now, that number seemed so astronomical and outlandish to me at the time that it's no wonder that I didn't achieve that because I never thought that I would.
Mhm.
Right? And so,
Yep.
that was, like, a huge mistake. It wasn't a mistake, it just, like, didn't actually get me any results because it didn't break it down for me as far as what
Yep.
I needed to do next. It didn't give me any clarity, it only gave me anxiety, really. And so, you set that big target, but you really what you need to know is you need to know where you are right now.
Yeah.
Let's say I wanna get to $100,000 or $83,000 a month. Well, and here's how the geometric progression works. Take your time frame,
Mhm.
divide it by 4, and divide that number by 4 or 4 times. So the first thing that I do is divide it in half. And we're just going to use 80,000 to keep it easy so because I don't feel like doing math right now. $80,000.
Yep.
The last evolution in my third quarter of the next year is going to be that extra 40K. So that's going to be 40 to 80,000. And so 40K becomes my benchmark. And then I
Mhm.
cut that in half again. And so 20K becomes my
Mhm.
benchmark. And then I cut that in half again, and 10K becomes my benchmark. So if I'm at 0 and I'm
Mhm.
aiming at 10,000, then this quarter, the only thing that I need to focus on is strategies and tactics that are going to get me to my first 10K.
Mhm.
Anything outside of that or anybody that tells me I'm going to come and make $1 million, blah, 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 don't
Right.
listen to it.
Right. Yep.
And so, the one easier way to break this down and make it more applicable to almost any type of business is when you think about those numbers, don't think in terms of net revenue or sorry,
Yeah.
gross revenue. Think in terms
Uh-huh.
of net profit.
Mm. Mm.
Because
Yeah.
even if you're doing $1 million a year right now, you're doing only a certain amount in profit, especially in a lot of service or home service businesses and things like that. And the profit is the thing that you really care about right now, anyways, because that's
Mhm.
how much money you get to take home. So think about it in
Yep.
terms of profit. By next year, I want to be making $80,000 in profit. And right now I'm making zero, or I have no freaking idea because that's
Yep.
actually what I see most of the time is like, I don't know. I'm making money, I'm paying the bills, things are good, I got money in the bank account, it's okay. Or
Yep.
I'm making a crap load of money, but I have no money in the bank account, I'm spending all this stuff and I have no idea what's happening. Well,
Yep.
chances are in your first quarter, one of the things that you might want to look at is fixing your finances and getting your books in order and focusing on that piece.
Yep.
Because if you can't understand profit, you can't grow anything, you can't scale anything, you're going to have no idea what to do next.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
again, your first framework is just that first milestone to double what you're doing today. And that's how I work it.
Mhm.
So to work the other direction, it's what are you doing in profit right now? In the next 3 months, how can you 2x that? How can you double that? And then in the
Mhm.
next 3 months, how can you double that again? And then in the next 3 months, how can you double that again? And that will still get you to the same result, but each stage is going to require a different skill set.
Mhm.
It's gonna require different tactics and different strategies, and whether it's
Yeah.
3 months or 6 months or 12 months that it takes you to reach that next milestone, I can tell you that that's the milestone with the tactics that you need to do for a long enough period of time that they work. Meaning
Mhm.
even if that last 40K takes you 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, that's what I'm trying to elude here is it's not about the time frame, it's about the tactics during that period.
Mhm. Right.
Because to go from 40 to 80,000, it's probably going to be about running ads and scaling marketing and scaling a couple channels to a really big level, or scaling whatever it was that I was doing that was working.
Mhm.
And that's the crazy
Yeah.
part too, is like you'll see somebody go from let's just say level 1 to level 2 to level 3 to level 4, or like level 1 to level 2, and let's say most of their business comes from referrals and word of mouth.
Yep.
And then when they reach level 2, they're like, well, I'm going to stop focusing on referrals and word of mouth, and I'm going to go try this new thing over here and build this whole system. And I'm like, why didn't you just do more of what you were doing before? It was
Right.
working. Like,
Yep.
you were creating relationships and doing all that stuff. And sure, you might not be able to do it at scale, but trying to do things at scale and stopping yourself from doing them because they don't scale is actually might be holding you back.
Mhm.
Because I sat in an event in 2019 called Traffic and Conversions, and Ryan Dice got on stage, and I thought what he said was masterful. He said, "The future of marketing is scaling the unscalable."
Hmm.
And what that means to me is like the people that we do business with and the people that we work with are people.
Yep.
And I'm telling you right now, if you're on a B2B type thing, they don't want to come to a webinar. They don't want to come to some of those things. Like, if you're the person not using AI and not trying to, use mass tactics and all of that, you're immediately going to set yourself apart from other people. And
Yep.
if you're just starting out, or no matter where you are in your business, that is going to shine through because somebody will know that they'll get a level of service from you that that giant company can't do.
Mhm.
And so there's actually a strategic advantage to being small.
Yep.
So take
Yeah.
advantage of that strategic advantage. To bring this all home one more time, take where you are right now, determine where you want to go, and just cut it into micro chunks in 2x's. That's why it's called the geometric progression formula. Geometric progression is just the idea that every time and every step I'm doubling.
Hmm.
I read a book, and I actually have it here, by Dan Sullivan, called 10x is easier than 2x.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
And I actually kind of call BS on that,
Interesting.
because the thing that it doesn't negate, or the thing that it doesn't give you, is the idea that you need to gain the skills as you're doing the 2x jumps in order to get the
Yes.
10x leap.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, I told it this way to somebody that I was talking to on a call the other day. It's like you're playing a video game and you're in level 1 or level 2 or level 3.
Mm.
And as you're going through it, let's say it's a role playing game. I'm probably going to use the wrong words because I don't play video games. But as you're going through it, you need to obtain the agility, and you need to get the
Yes.
sword and the shield and the armor and the different things like that.
Yep.
If you try and skip ahead to level 20 and fight the boss, what's going to happen?
You're gonna die
You're going to get
without all that.
crushed.
Yeah.
Don't negate the journey of the growth that you get to experience along that journey as you gain new skills, you gain new knowledge, you gain different things. And so I'm talking a lot here, but this is like an important concept, and I've done a lot of thinking time on this. And
Mhm.
so the way you would lay that out for yourself, David, is the same way that I would do it for and I know nothing about environmental engineering.
Mhm.
But if I were to be providing a proposal to an
Right.
environmental engineering company, or to somebody who needs environmental engineering for whatever that you do,
Mhm.
putting a building in a place or something, I don't know.
Yep.
It's all about what is the next most important thing.
Mhm.
How about we start working together? Let's accomplish this next most important thing so that we can then open up the new possibility, because it also goes with a framework that it's called the problem solution cycle.
Mhm.
Every problem that you solve, so you have a problem, you come up with a solution, and what that does is it creates a new problem.
Yep.
I have had so many calls, both on a sales call or a consulting call, where the one thing is like somebody will be telling me something is like, oh man, one day, like, man, I don't want to do this because then I'm going to have that problem.
Yeah.
And my answer is always like, wouldn't that be a sweet problem to have?
Yeah, it's not a good
Wouldn't you be
that's
like
like a good
stoked about
problem.
that? Yeah,
Yeah.
like I would be stoked to have that problem, because if you have that problem, it means you've solved X, Y, and Z.
Yep. Yep.
So let's aim at getting that problem. Let's make that a problem.
Right.
And
Right.
how this relates tactically is like creating a long-term nurture email sequence, for example, or a long-term thing, or automating my entire sales process. Well, why can't your salespeople just like follow up with their leads?
Mhm.
And if you guys didn't see that, I did like an explosion thing with my hand.
Those that are just listening
Um,
online, you're gonna have to come watch the video.
yeah. But yeah, like why can't your salespeople just follow up with their leads? Why do you need an automated text message SMS sequence to go into the thing when your salespeople, or when you should be doing sales, spending 3 to 4 hours a day doing that, and you can just pick up the phone and actually call somebody?
Mhm.
It's mind bending to me that people think that they want to grow a business and then they try doing all these automation things when they haven't even figured out the copy and the way to talk about it and the way to get x-ray vision into your customers' minds and actually talk about their problems in the way that they would talk about their problems.
Yeah. I think what just mentioned this at the beginning of the journey, or Josh, you're talking about how the business starts out one way and it ends up going somewhere else. And there's that's not a bad thing. It's understanding who your ideal client is, where the market is, what you're bringing in. And again, I've seen the value of that myself in over the course of I'll be in September. I'll be 2 years. I started Steward Your Business, so it's been morphing and understanding. And so, and even just doing the podcast with you here, I've been doing this podcast, the Business Roundtable, almost a year now, and then Intelligent Human Leadership earlier this year. It's going through the journey, it's getting the reps and going that in, I can't, you know, just understate that, or and emphasize that, I should say, this what you're talking about, getting the reps in. Now, I will say, Josh, one of the things that I found that has been most beneficial as I've been going through this journey is find other people that are further along in the journey, like yourself, learn from their mistakes, learn from their challenges, and that will help you, but you still got to go through the journey yourself. You still got to figure that out, right?
Yeah, I like to say that there's a huge difference between information and knowledge.
Yes.
Information, there is a plethora of it on the internet. All you have to do is look up YouTube videos and things like that. Knowledge
Yep.
is information applied,
Hmm.
meaning you don't really know something until you've done it.
Hmm.
I can read all the books and all the YouTube videos and all the different things on how to snowboard if I want to, but I still don't know how to snowboard because I've never actually snowboarded. I've never gone out there and fell on my butt a million different times until I don't fall on my butt anymore.
Hmm.
And like most people don't want to learn a new skill because they're going to fall on their butt and it's not comfortable and you're going to look like an idiot.
Yeah. No,
Actually,
there's
some of
there,
the
there
most
is.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a time, I think it's Malcolm Gladwell. I can't remember if it's him, the one that's talking about the 10,000 hours or whatever, becoming an expert. Whereas there's this idea of, you've got to get enough in there. And like you said earlier in the podcast here, Josh, like some people just want to jump to mastermind group, like, oh, I could just do all these people. How many one-on-one have you done? Oh, I have hardly any. Well, how are you going to be able to hold a room of all these different people if you can't even do it one-on-one, or understand that?
Well, here's the biggest obstacle too is like it negates the ability to pivot, right? And I
Mm,
did this actually. So a few years ago, I grew an agency up to a really great level. I was really proud of what I had built for the most part. But my day in and day out, my calendar and the way that it looked and what I was doing on a daily basis made me miserable.
mm,
What I did is I got really aimed on that $83,000 number, and no matter what I did, I wanted to hit that with the thing that I was
mhm,
doing right now and negated the pivoting in any way because I was so romantic about that. And what I
mhm,
ended up doing is building the wrong business, building
mhm,
something that ended up being a jail or a prison for me, and I hated it. Because along that journey and along that path, I just wanted to grow really fast and bring on a bunch of different things, and I didn't actually pivot when I knew that I should have pivoted.
mhm.
And I mean, granted, my business now is somewhat similar, but I focus mostly on growth and consulting and the things that people actually need. Because
Yep.
like, and here's just a funny thing that I've noticed is like when you talk to agency owners, I've called myself the agency whisperer or like the jaded agency owner. Because one of the biggest kind of beef I have in that space is that when you're a hammer, everything's a nail. And so if I run a Google PPC agency or if I run a Facebook ads agency or a go high level funnel agency or a click funnels thing, then of course that's the thing that everybody needs. The second you move outside of that and actually become a strategist for somebody or for the people that you work for,
Mhm.
you're gonna 10x your revenue because the value that you give is greater.
Mhm.
Because there are 2 costs that people see. They see the external cost of whatever the thing is that you have,
Yep.
but the other cost that people don't, um, necessarily account for all the time is, something, one of my favorite authors, Keith Cunningham, calls dumb tax.
Yeah.
And dumb tax is making the wrong decision and keeping doing the wrong decision for a long enough period of time that you spend a bunch of money on something that you never intended to do in the first place.
Oh, man,
And
yeah.
then you get romantic about a solution or you get romantic about whatever the thing is, and you're like, "I've already invested so much money in this thing, I'm gonna just keep pouring it in."
Mhm.
Done. And I'm
Yep.
just I'm just using his words because I listened to the audio version, like, he actually says that kinda stuff. Like, it's dumb tax.
Yeah.
The other piece is missed opportunity or opportunity cost,
Mhm.
meaning, you don't count or account for money that you didn't make. I'll tell you a story about that. The past few weeks, I've been dinking around and playing around with, like, some stock option trading and doing some stuff in the stock market just because I kinda find it to be fun. It's exhilarating. It's kinda like gambling in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've just had this nagging thought lately, and it showed up for me in my journal the other day. I'm like, "I need to just delete all this crap."
Mm.
Like, if I'm sitting here staring at a stock chart for 2 hours a day.
Oh, you're muted there, Josh. Hold on. Let me you real bumped you there. Let's see. Uh, Try to unmute yourself there.
Testing, testing.
There we go. There we go. You're okay. Go
Alright,
for
I
it.
bumped the
You
cord.
got so excited.
Yeah, I know, right? No, but, like, the thing that's been showing up for me is I'm sitting here looking at a stock chart every day, providing no value to the marketplace for about an hour or 2 every single day, and the thought that came to me is like, "Man, what if I spent that hour or 2 making calls to people and just giving them value?" Wouldn't that like, I would make 10 times more than anything I could make in stock options trading without any risk of loss. Because if somebody says, "No, I didn't lose anything."
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's such a great, we have to look at ourselves along the journey, like you said, Josh. What's working, what's not working? Is it getting me the desired result or not? And then we have to be not kind of, we have to be ruthless at extracting out those things that don't, like you said, say no to that. And I've been there, Josh. I totally get what you're saying. Is like, um, this could be not just in business stuff, but like you're talking about business. It could be forms of sedation. I've talked about in the warrior world. What are we sedating with? Um, to cope with all the things that are going around us, and you're like, yeah, that's not really helping me, that's not really benefiting me. And I actually, it's kind of funny because I just recorded a podcast on my other episode on my other intelligent human leadership one, where I was talking about what are the leaks, what's leaking out of us, of power, certainty, clarity. We all have it in different areas, and so you said you're identifying one of those things, Josh. And so our one of the most powerful things of having a coach or consultant is they just hold a mirror back up to you, right? And saying, okay, just lay it out. Tell me all the things you're doing. What are all those things are? And just be real about the facts, right? And then you can say, then you can just start looking at those things. Does that get what you want? Yes or no? What and start. That's what a real coach does. I find that's why when you invest in a coach, rather than trying to be in a silo yourself and just try to figure this out alone, you're going to spend a lot of time and money. And then you said, like you said earlier, you're going to pay the dumb tax. So let's maybe shift the dumb tax. If you're going to pay anything, at least pay it in somebody that's going to help you be more productive and effective. And Josh, I mean, I hope people that are listening to this are hearing loud and clear that you're one trusted advisor that I've had that can give you that candid feedback, be honest. We talk about this in the warrior, right? We live by the code. Stop lying and telling the truth. Like, we're not trying to. You don't have to put any show here. A lot of people like to show revenue numbers, like how much revenue, right? Well, what was the profit? I don't know. I mean, the revenue. Like, yeah,
I know, but I made
but
it to the 2 comma club.
you know,
I spent $1.1 million in ads to make $1 million, and I got my award.
right. You know, so let's be real, right? And transparent. Um, and that's what a good coach and consultant will help do, the coach particularly is going to be able to help you strip away these levels of self-preservation, these stories that you say, oh, they're not serving you anymore, right, Josh?
Yeah. So I the company that I run is kind of a hybrid between coaching,
Hmm.
consulting, and actually done for you services, because there are just certain things that I'm like, oh my God, like I can't even teach you how to build the system. I will build the system for you. And that's exactly part of the entire thing is when you start working with people, they're gonna teach you what to build for them. It's the most beautiful thing. Like, over the past year or so, I've started working with and consulting with and doing all that stuff, and we ended up building about 6 really cool products, and it was only built out of a necessity or out of a need that somebody actually had, right? So whether you needed VA services or a podcast to be launched for you or content to be created from the videos that you were creating or whatever, all of these products in the agency side of what we do were created because it was just easier for me to create it and cheaper for them for me to create it and just do it for them and kind of crowdsource, if you will, all of that stuff. But um, I totally agree with you.
Hmm.
It is very difficult to see the forest through the trees. And
Hmm.
that's where a coach comes into play. I have seen people saying, I can't afford to hire a coach. I can't afford to hire a consultant. I can't afford insert blank.
Right.
If it's the right thing at the right time, I'd ask you this one simple question. Can you afford not to?
Hmm.
Because if you don't, you will remain where you are without the knowledge or the information, or you're going to have to distill it and make all the mistakes yourself. And so in coaching and consulting, most of the time, what our aim is to get you towards the ideal result that you're aiming at within that time frame, but not
Hmm.
only get you towards that, but get you there faster.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
like if my aim is to make 100 grand a month and I think it'll take me 2 years, but this guy can help me do it in one by helping me not make some mistakes and with recruiting and fix my operations. Well,
Hmm.
$100,000 times 12, that's going to make me $1.2 million. And he's charging 10 grand. That sounds like a steal. I paid 100 grand for for a college degree that didn't do anything for
Yeah,
me.
right.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
I would even add to that, Josh. I had a client yesterday. I was talking to him, and he was calling me, and he was just saying, you know what? I just want to let you know, and I really appreciated this that he took the time to call me and share this. But he said, you know, when I see the invoice show up, I actually feel good about it because and this is his words, uh, I'm investing in myself, and it's an investment. And so I think you bring a good point, Josh, of where is your mindset at? Because if you're like you said, I can't, you're already starting in a deficit. So if you're crazy enough to step as an entrepreneur, crazy to step as a leader, you have got to create an aspiring vision. What I want to say, this overarching way of what can be. Because if you don't have that and you cannot see that, and you're already starting in a deficit place, you're not going to make it. Right? You're already behind, and so you have to already have this compelling vision or way of that you can see, and that you're like, if that's going to get me where I need to go, then let's go. You know?
one thing, David, when you and I met, and you mentioned this earlier on the show, but you were an entrepreneur at the time.
Yep.
And one of the things I use in the things I do is a belief statement that basically says, I believe that everybody's most fulfilling and biggest purpose is going to be found by going back in time and serving a previous version of themselves.
Yep.
And I was one of your biggest cheerleaders when you took the leap into Steward your business and doing all these things. I was so excited for you because I saw when we met how many you would see different people running their businesses, and I could see and I could feel and I could taste that that's what you really wanted,
Mhm.
but you knew that you needed to take a leap, and that's a big leap. And
Yep.
so what I'm trying to get at with this, I feel like I had a really good point. But what I'm
It'll
trying to
come
get
back.
at yeah, what I'm trying to get at with this is the idea that, like, if you're just in this game to make money, if money is your aim,
Yep.
it will be very hard.
Mhm.
Because you won't enjoy the process. Money
Mhm.
can't be the goal. Money is a lagging result of a goal,
Yes.
but money is not a
Yes.
target. Like, and so especially like if I were to set a target a year from now, it would be way better to say, I want to help 100 thought leaders and experts launch their podcasts and grow authority brands in the next 12 months.
Mhm.
Then it would be to say, I want to make $100,000.
Yeah.
Granted, they are both the same. The $100,000 or $200,000, whatever it is the same result. It's still going to do the same thing. But
Mhm.
one of them I care about, the other one I don't. It's just money,
Yes.
whatever. My life's not gonna change that much.
Absolutely.
Actually, it probably would, but
And and
so
and that vision, it changes, like you said, Josh, as you journey along. You need to keep recasting that vision for the next evolution, the next level that you're becoming, right?
mhm,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
part of it. Absolutely.
so
Uh,
if I were to leave, like, everybody here, because I know we're running out of time, with
mhm,
one thing tactical, I'd ask you to ask yourself the same thing I ask most of my questions on the very beginning of an engagement
mhm,
is, well, the first thing would I guess it's 2 things really. The first thing is, what is it like, why are you doing this? Like, really, really why?
mhm.
And ask
Yep.
yourself, go really deep because it's not about money. There's a reason. And if you can get like, and I know for a fact that during a sales process or anything like that, if I can get to somebody's real why, like the real understanding of what their motivation is, then there's a
Yep.
deal that we will do. The
Yep.
second thing is, what's the next most important thing? Let go of all the shiny objects, let go of all the different things, and put your short-term milestone in place and say, these are the things I need to do in order to accomplish that first milestone.
Mhm.
Because you and I will both tell you that over the 6 year, or I mean, I got in Wake Up Warrior stuff in 2017, I think. So that's
Mhm.
been, make me do math again. 8 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or
Holy
go
crap.
6, 7 years, 7
Um,
years. Yeah.
the number of times that my impossible games or like the impossible target have changed is almost once a quarter.
Yeah. Yep.
Your big vision, your big goal will pivot and it will change with your evolution and your growth because you don't know what that first the 3 month, 6 month version of you is going to want.
Mhm.
So your
Yeah.
only task is to focus on the task at hand that's in front of you right now. That's it. Just do
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. And you mentioned another key book that I really enjoyed earlier in the podcast, Start with Why. When you understand your personal why, like you said, Josh, you can apply that at all different levels. And I think, like you said, that is who you are. So use that filter again, like you said, along your journey to get to that next level. That to me has been so important in my journey, personally. And this has been so beneficial to hear, Josh, just share your own journey, to get to have you on here finally on the podcast and to share. I want to encourage people, if they want to get a hold of you, Josh, like I know Xtract Media. What's the best way for them to find you, to get in touch with you, to learn more?
Yeah, so I would just tell people to go to my Instagram or Facebook.
Uh-huh.
It's the best way. Those are the two platforms that I'm on all the time, and I reply personally to all of my messages. So if you have any questions or just want to get some clarity on what the right next thing is for you based on some of my experience, I'd love to help you. And just to give you some wisdom or guidance. And so just find me on Facebook. My name's Joshua Jurkovich. So I think I'm Joshua M. Jurkovich, but there's not many of me.
Yeah.
So I should be pretty easy to find. And I'm sure that we'll put the links to those two things in the show note captions.
Yep.
You can check out my my website or whatever if you want to, but yeah, let's just actually connect one to one because that's what I
Yeah,
like.
no, Josh is great, and I will attest, he's one of the guys that is really big, and I totally value this, personally responding to everybody. He's done that with me. There's no AI bots here or some VA somewhere else. You're getting the real deal here with Josh, and
No,
that's the
I,
way
I
he
I
is.
even I even cringe at sometimes when I send people a calendar link. I'm like, oh, don't love that. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
I'll, like,
Oh,
apologize before I send it. I'm like, "I'm sorry that I'm sending you a calendar link. Your relationship is important to me. I just don't have time." Like, I'm sorry.
Yes. No, you're such Josh has been, such a great friend, brother. We've gone through a lot of different things, shared personally, professionally. That's why I wanted to have on here, Josh. The insights you shared are just so valuable. I hope the people that are listening to this podcast definitely reach out to me. You guys, we're Josh and I are connected on Facebook and other things too, so you can find me too. We'll get you plugged in. Josh, I'd love to have you back again. I know this is a one-on-one episode. Sometimes we'll have multiple on a round table with others. Would love to have you come back again. So
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, I feel like I could give the other deal, which is the other thing I normally talk about called the meta frameworks, just to leave you guys with like a carrot dangling
yes,
in front of you for the next episode. And maybe one day in the future and some sort of thing, you guys can just skip right to that episode too. Will be episode number 362.
there you
Which is
go.
crazy if it actually was. But yeah, the meta frameworks is like
Put it out there.
the journey is just one of them, and then there are like 5 other ones. And so it's just again a word picture in order to see success principles that apply to everything. And so it's just what I've noticed over the years through a lot of reading.
No, a lot of reading. You've got a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience. We've just barely scratched the surface here, Josh. I'm again so grateful that you're here. We will definitely have you back, and maybe we'll see. Hopefully not before 360, but who knows. But I just want to say thanks again for those of you that are catching this on a replay, or listening to it on your favorite podcast platform. Of course, we're on YouTube. We put an episode out every week on LinkedIn. You can follow along there. We appreciate you guys subscribing, leaving your comments, feedback. What was the key takeaways, questions you have? Again, we'll follow up on those as well. And I'll make sure that Josh is aware so he can respond. And we'll get those links, Instagram, Facebook, out there on the show notes. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, be well. Take care out there. Thanks again, Josh, for joining us on the Business
Yeah,
Roundtable
thank you. And
podcast.
thank you everyone for listening and spending your time with us. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.